Okay, we're going to go ahead and graph this in vertex form. And the problem with this is you'll notice it's given to us in standard form. So basically, I'm given something that looks like this, but it's much easier to graph if I can rearrange it to look like this. And what we're going to do is what's called completing the square. First thing I don't like about this problem is it's not in standard form. Okay, it's in the wrong order. So I would change this to negative x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay, now it's proper. And from earlier lessons on completing the square, one thing I like to do is right off the chutes, I get rid of this f of x and the equal sign. And I'm going to change that to over here to equals 0. Because I still want it to be an equation, but because I'm going to do some balancing and whatnot. But the f of x always confuses people. Okay, the next thing I do is I want just my variables on the left, meaning I want the negative x squared and the negative 2x on the left. So I need to move this positive 4 to the right side. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And that leaves me with negative x squared minus 2x equals negative 4. Now I want to change this left side into a new trinomial that I can factor. One thing I don't like, though, is I don't like this negative. I don't like to factor negative trinomials. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a negative 1 out of both of these terms. And that would now change it positive, x squared. This changes it to a plus 2x. I'm going to leave, you'll notice I left a little space here because I'm going to go ahead and add to this equation, and that's going to turn it into something that I can factor. Now, what goes in this spot is always b divided by 2. And in this scenario, the b I'm looking at, don't look at your original b here, okay? And remember, b is always with the single x. I'm going to look at this new b down here that I have after pulling out a number. In this scenario, it's 2. Okay, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the number that goes in this spot is 1. Okay, I'm going to scroll up a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and move these things down so I have a little more room to work. Let me scroll back up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write this out. I've got negative 1 times x squared plus 2x. We know that 1 squared is just plus 1 equals negative 4. Now, I can't just magically decide I'm going to add something to the left side of the equation without doing it on the right side of the equation as well. So if I'm just going to add a 1 on the left side so it factors nicely the way I want it to, then I better add something over here. Now, I do have to be careful, okay? Because I'm not just adding a 1 over here. I am, don't forget, you do have this negative 1 out here, and if I were to distribute, I'm adding, okay, a 1 times a negative 1 there if I were to factor that out. So really, I'm just subtracting 1. Okay, so be careful on that. Minus 1, get rid of that. Fix my 4 a little bit, okay? All right, so let's write out what we have now at this point. I've got a negative out here. Okay, I don't really need to put the 1, so I won't. I'm going to go ahead and factor this out. And I get x, x, and x gives me x squared. My signs have to be the same, and they both have to be positive. And the only numbers that multiply to 1 and add to 1 are 1 and 1. And it works out the way I wanted to. And this will be a negative 5. And the last thing I need to do is I just need to clean it up a little bit. So let me move that down. Let me get these out of the way. I'm going to put it back in function notation. F of x equals negative x plus 1 quantity squared. And then I would move this back to the left side. So now we get plus 5. And now I have something that looks like standard form the way I want, or excuse me, vertex form. So this is what I'm going to be working with. Okay, moving down a little bit more. I can graph this thing now. I do need to identify my vertex and my axis or line of symmetry. Again, the typical equation looks like this. x minus h squared plus k. The easiest thing is to go ahead and find the k first. So whatever is here is always your k, and that's going to be my vertical translation. It's going to move my parabola up or down. So if I were to make some coordinates here for my vertex, the k value would be 5. And in this scenario right here, again, this is going to move my parabola left and right. Negative is part of the formula. And the only way I could have produced a positive 1 up here is if I plugged in a negative 1 right here and subtracted the negative. And that makes my x value. And again, it's kind of opposite when we're doing horizontal shifts of what you'd expect. It says x plus 1. Normally that's to the right, but we're going to go to the left instead. And that also gives me my axis, x equals negative 1, or line of symmetry. So I'll go ahead and graph that. I'll plot that point first. Negative 1 up 5, so my parabola should start right here. My line of symmetry is going to go ahead and cut through right here, and that'll split my parabola in half. I'm going to go ahead and check my calculator. I'll find some nice clean points. Let's turn it on. You'll notice I already pre-programmed this in. Let's see what it looks like. I'll go ahead and pull this off. And then I'm also going to look at the table here. And this gives me some other clean points that I can graph real quick. And once I've plotted those points, now I can connect them with a smooth curve, and my graph should be done. And you have something like this, and you just rearrange this standard form quadratic into vertex form, and found the vertex and the line of symmetry or the axis, and plotted your points.